We are all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
So I just recently saw a story that the NPC streamer, Pinky Doll, she makes $7,000 a day doing the, ice cream so good, right? All that kind of stuff. $7,000 a day. Damn. Talk about the depraved and debaucherous. That right there alone, without even having to go ahead and be in any kind of interaction with anybody personal. The control, the mindset, the manipulation. I almost did an episode about it, but you know what? It's a little too late to do that. And why am I going to get the press about it? Get all in the press about it, right? I mean, why am I going to go ahead and make mention of and, make her more popular? Well, I don't think it'll make her more popular being on this program, but, you get what I'm talking about. It was a considered topic of the program, but I chose not to do it. And I think you'll be happier that I did that. No, tonight we're going to talk about dating apps. They're not just for dating anymore. And I'm not saying it like a joke, because now there are seriously stories out there about dating apps that are not even being used for dating. They're networking apps. Or they're traps. And I'm going to go through a couple different stories that explain this very such thing right now. This is ridiculous, but we're going to talk about it. And I'm ashamed to see this because this is where we are. I have told you before about my background when it comes to dating apps. We didn't have dating apps, we had dating sites. And I'll tell you what, they were great. eHarmony, seriously, in the 90s, was one of the best dating sites of all. Like, it was wonderful. I can't tell you how well that Neil Clark Warren was with the whole idea of the personality profile and picking somebody out of there and really finding somebody good. Because I'll tell you, I found quality women that I got to date, and there was dating and there was romantic possibilities there. Like, that was the part I was looking for. I mean, I can at least name there was about 4 or 5 different women that I remember I dated, and it was, it was wonderful. It's just a shame that it never stayed that way, but what are you going to do, right? But it was really something special, like just to go ahead and see who I met off of there, who I met off of Yahoo Personals before it got bought by Match. And they were just better. And then AOL had their own Love at AOL. That was early on. And that connected to the AOL Instant Messenger when it was still around. Like, all those things really did connect you to people. And when dating was going on then, you still had a chance of dating. And it really worked out, which was really incredible. Just saying that point. So a couple of stories are going to tell me about this, all right? I got The Guardian and I got Wall Street Journal. And I'll take Wall Street Journal first. So there's a young lady they talked to named Grace Sling for this story. And she mentions on her dating app profile that she lists curiosity, open-mindedness, and a love of learning as preferred qualities. Ideal date night activities are going to tech conferences and initiating brand collaborations. Yeah, she says she's clear she just wants to meet friends. The app is for networking. And she explains that on the profile. I mean, yeah, you could do it for that. I mean, but I've already had kind of a sense where women were on the conventional dating sites just to make friends anyway. But for what use? Again, it's just for the benefit of the women, just to get something out of it. Maybe, and remember, the friendships, are they going for women? Is it really that hard for women to go ahead and make friends in person? No, absolutely not. No, they want to make it more difficult by meeting somebody online whom they don't know anything about, and they don't have that personal interaction. For whatever reason, why are there some people that just feel like they need to be introverted and just meet people this way? As opposed to meeting in person and just saying, you know what, if you meet someone and they have time, go for a cup of coffee in public, out there in the ether. And if you're going to a bar or a restaurant or whatever, and you have other people around you, I mean, that's the whole idea of it. But no, they don't want to even consider that. Nobody wants to even think of the idea of, that the intent of meeting up is to date. And that part of it is too, is that they're talking about like looking for a new job. We'll talk about that. The Guardian talks about that. This is crazy, but this is something that's being thought about now. professionals agree that LinkedIn shouldn't be a dating app, but they talked about where there was a young lady they talked to, a former recruiter from Los Angeles named Katie Nguyen, that she was messaged and someone complimented her appearance and she immediately got the ick. Now, they asked the question in Wall Street Journal, can the dating app, any dating app, be a job hunting tool? Now, they didn't say which app was on here, but one of them that I know we saw on here, we'll talk about in a second, they said Tinder, right? Or Hinge, and believe it or not. So they talked to Eliana Goldstein, a New York-based career coach working with young professionals, and she's urging her clients to use dating apps as they search for jobs. And do you understand that when you're doing dating apps for to meet people as prospective employers or to network, then you're using your romantic prowess, you're using your beauty and your youth to gain employment. Because any guy that's going to be on a site, they're not looking necessarily, first of all, they were looking for romance. They're looking for companionship. But you're bringing to the table maybe friendship, of which the man has to go ahead and put out to make that friendship be fostered. But what your real intent is, you want to network with other people that might get you into your career or into a job. Or that person becomes the employer that gives you a job. Is that what we've gotten to? Where men are now just used for, now we just want to, women want to be the girl bosses and they want to find careers. So men are just good for giving them careers? Like when were men the reason to be finding, for career searching? Women are using what they have, using the pretty privilege, using their ability to being women on dating apps in order to find their careers. I mean, you mentioned you got a college degree, or you're mentioning in college and you make mention of all this other stuff. Like, really? This is a haunting trend to me. Now, is it going to work? Sure. Listen, should I be absolutely mortified at this? No, this doesn't surprise me at all. But this is in the area of depravity, okay? That we're going to resort to dating apps to find work, to find networking. Man, let me tell you what. The guys are getting screwed on this. There's no debauchery in this. There's nothing that the man benefits from. It's, again, a man probably being used for this. Now, are women getting the same thing? And now, the other thing is, you know what's going to happen here? Guys are going to use this for debauchery reasons, because what we're going to do, some of you out there are going to do it. Come on, you admit it. You're going to now take advantage of the fact that, this is something we can manipulate. Some guys are going to try to act like, I can give you a job. I can pay you. I can pay you whatever you want. And you know what it is? They're going to use that as opposed to finding a sugar daddy. A woman might find looking for a sugar daddy on a sugar daddy site. Instead, they're going to use this route to try to find someone that will support them with a job that, you didn't go through traditional routes to go ahead and be interviewed like everyone else. You're going to try to come in and say, making friends, we're networking. I can do this, I can do that. You're getting the one-on-one onus to go ahead and try to make a chance to get work. But basically get paid. In the same way that women are looking for sugar daddies. They want to get paid. Is that one-on-one connection. But you're using the men for ulterior motives. I mean, some guys should find that kind of insulting. And I would think, I don't want to be that. If I felt like I had a woman meet me on any particular site, and they said, okay, all of a sudden, yeah, I want to meet you, and, are you hiring? Or do you know anybody that's hiring? I mean, listen, I love that you're in podcasting. Can you find me a job? Do you know anybody that's hiring? Really? Or you get together, you meet up with friends, and they're like, I want to meet your friends, your professional friends. Let's go and hang out. And they can try to smooth and work their way through, and, they get to go and still have cocktails. They still get to go and go out to dinner or for drinks or for coffee or for whatever. They still get the experience of going out. But women, you're not even going to care about if you're doing this thing, if you decide to go this route. And even if you're not, this is being encouraged. Okay, Wall Street Journal, Guardian, they want to instill this idea that dating apps are not for dating anymore, which is only going to confuse the guys out there, the guys that are paying. Now, we already know that certain sites like Hinge or Bumble, they already have areas where you can do connections and networking, but now they're trying to cloud it up. This is the idea of clouding it up. And professionals out there, consultants, recruiters saying, yeah, go do it. Moving along to Wall Street Journal, young professionals resorted to non-traditional methods when the jobless rate climbed at the beginning of the pandemic, and now layoffs at high-profile companies have spurred some to explore new ways to meet people and advance their careers. Now, Ling here, Grace Ling, says that the networking in the apps is partly helping others. She found it useful in college when she swiped right on guys who worked only where she was hoping to get hired. None of the swiping led to her current job, but it landed her referrals and a couple of interviews at major tech companies. Yeah, you used your way to get in. And look, I see her here, young, beautiful lady, and on her Hinge profile, she goes on and asks me anything about UX design, illustration, running, swimming, traveling, and content creation. But what does that say about your personality, about your reputation, your integrity? That you would resort to a dating app to try to find a job. Like, I mean, there might be some people that might go into that. And of course, you're using a guy's feelings and his, appeal of you, of being attracted to you, as the reason you're going to be able to get farther ahead. Now, I can't necessarily knock this either if women are being convinced to go this route either. It's a shitty way to go. Can I say that? Because it is. And it's not just for women. It's also in the LGBTQ plus population. So they talked to Brandon Tamayo, a 30-year-old compliance specialist with the Chicago Transit Authority. He recruits people to work to his workplace on Grindr. He'll look for a spot in his conversations to drop a link to the CTA's online job board. And most of his matches dismiss it. But, quote, you have something in your hand where you're talking to 30 or 40 people every day when you're matching. I'm like, let me use this opportunity. So you just rather just go ahead and find people to go ahead and work with you? It doesn't jive with me. I just don't see why. Tinder, the community guidelines advise users to make personal connections, not business ones. And this year, the company began removing social media handles from bios to stop people from using the app to build their followings or sell things. Tinder has declined to comment on what they've done. And Samantha Linger, they talked to, age 24, she says connecting on Hinge gave her the inside scoop when she was job hunting, that she had intended only to make friends on the app, but one she met worked for Meta, let her in about a hiring freeze there, and another from TikTok's corporate office wasn't happy with his work-life balance, and she decided not to apply. And then she goes on and talks about how people that talk about their jobs in San Francisco, especially on Hinge, I feel like your guard isn't up and people are checking it more than LinkedIn. So you're able to find out all these details. Hinge declines to comment on this because their community guidelines say the service is meant to make meaningful connections and daters should represent themselves authentically, but they don't. Am I being sold, a lot of bullshit because maybe this is not actually happening because this is just something that somebody like me is getting suckered in to talk about because of this? But you know what? I'm telling this out because I want guys to be aware of it. And ladies, if you feel like this is the way you need to go to meet people because this is what matters to you more, then yeah, you're being disingenuous to all the guys and girls out there. You will get the same kind of approach when you're dressed all business-like, going in for an interview, okay? And you show it's the merit of what you're able to do and what you're qualified to do. Now, and I'm not saying, listen, Grace Lee here, she's obviously qualified for something. I don't know what job she would be looking for, but you're not going through a job board. You're just trying to find someone just based on, you can find someone that maybe might be near your career or something like that, and you're going to basically persuade that person under false pretenses to help you out. Because you're pretty, you're young, and you're talented. It's like looking for, it's any guy that would look at, a girl that is attractive and they're attracted to and they have a crush in, and they might in a friend zone. And there's the whole idea of like where women want to just go ahead and continue to foster the friend zone and use the guys they want because of their attraction to them. And guys, you need to understand if you're in a friend zone, this is exactly what you're being used for. You're being used, you're being utilized. Because if you are with the initial intent of dating the woman or the man, and that you are being friend zoned by, no, then you're not going to get in anywhere with what you want. I know this lesson. I learned it many times. I stopped doing it. And there's a lot of other people they also talk to in here doing the same thing. I'm like, shit, what the fuck is going on here? So again, we go on, and the Guardian also talks about this too. And they move along and talk about this. So they go on to talk about the fact that there was a report in 2021 that the excitement of dating was cooled by the global pandemic, and dating apps were heralded as germ-free meeting places. And then another report said 8% of British people had made successful networking contacts through their dating apps. When they ask the question, isn't this a minefield? They say, why? Because it blurs between the line between the romantic and professional manner. That sounds like an absolute HR nightmare. And then somebody asks, no, because some people might be on these sites to get lucky. And then they go on the right, well, that's even better. You swipe a sexy stranger, start writing increasingly intimate messages, and then you ask them about workplace opportunities. They'll be so confused that they'll give you a job on the spot. Persuasion. Manipulation. This is acceptable. This is allowed. Ladies, you don't need to go this route. This is also a route of desperation. Let's be honest with each other here. It's made to be, honestly, a desperate move. And there might be some guys that might buy into this. But, man, guys, quit simping. You are simping for a woman if you decide to go ahead and go along this route in this game. And women, I'm going to tell you, you could be setting yourself for a trap. Okay? It's about a minefield. No, this is going to be a trap. Because what if you have a guy that can lie through his teeth and say he owns a company or this and that? You're not meeting the person. You don't have any way to believe the bullshit he says unless he gives you a whole lot of background to make you give otherwise. And even then, you're not going the traditional route of finding out what will be on. You just don't see it. They go on with this little sarcasm. They say, how ethically duplicitous. And then they go on to say, well, I'm joking, tricking horny people into the work decisions is definitely not on. This only really works if everyone is completely transparent about what they want. Well, the thing is, we shouldn't have to go to this point. Now, you want to try this and see if it'll happen? Hey, go right ahead. But in the first place, dating apps are not for, it's not for job hunting. It's not for seeking employment. You're not going to Hinge or Tinder or Bumble. Well, Bumble's a different story because Bumble has a different section. But Tinder and Hinge. Oh my God. Tinder and Hinge. Wow, did I just do that? Yeah. These are meant for other things. And then somebody talks about, and what do you want? I want to piggyback on the concept of love to find a job. That is lying. That's being disingenuous. That's being really, it's desperate. It's depraved. It's just, you're just kind of swinging around just going around the other way. You should not try to fool anyone. It's not the way it should be. But there's these kind of ideas that get thought across, and it's like, oh, this sounds like a good idea. No, absolutely not. Don't do it. Another story I'm going to take from Dallas Innovates, and they take the same story again. And it's just sad to see all this. But they basically put out and make the whole summary on this, and they were just basically copying from Wall Street Journal. But they say dating apps can be a great way to find romance, but increasingly users are finding something else instead. Business come-ons from tech recruiters, networkers, and more. Now, guys, if you went on there and you got offered, work, are you going to believe what the woman's saying? What if she works for a company and you want to do the same thing? I never thought once in my mind that I would do something like this. Now, I will say this. It would be one thing if you are looking for someone that has a like-minded career field, right? Like, it would be nice for me to meet somebody that's in media. right? Somebody that's in podcasting, television, radio, whatever. Because I know, I mean, I can network and get along great with somebody this and that. But for some people, they might say it's not a good idea to go ahead and work with somebody in the same career field, both workaholics. Right. We also do know that, what a person's career is does matter in some cases to, who we determine is a good match. But remember, guys don't have to worry about that. Guys, in many cases, don't really care about the job that a woman has, because a woman can have no job at all or be broke, and he'll find her just as attractive and just as appealing and just as wonderful as anyone, because of how we've had those traditional values that some of us have had, that we want to marry, we want to have children. And if a woman does want to go and support and want to be able to have her own career, but she also wants to have it all. But there's been the whole thought process of, well, women don't need to go and be having families and having children and having relationships like that. No. They're trying to take that away. And so now we're getting to the point where, yeah, the career field that you want to be in, that's one thing. But it's also the part where, okay, so you want to go ahead and find work. Now, and the thing too is, how many people are actually looking within locally? And is this something that you're looking at where, imagine if it's somebody long distance and they say, oh, I want to find someone that maybe will work within, where I want to go and work at someday. Maybe I'm in Miami or New York or whatever, and I want to work in San Fran or Los Angeles or whatever. You're thinking like all these prospects of people that you want to look at that, and you should know that if you're looking at meeting somebody for friends or for a relationship, that you're taking a lot out of the whole equation. You don't care about the person. You care about what they can do for you. And that's completely shady and greedy and selfish. Is that enough? Did I make my point? But it is. It's bullshit. It really is stupid. And I hate it. Another story I'm going to take from Hindustan Times. They talk about how if dating is a blessing or a curse. And so they talk about debutante balls, family matchmaking, newspaper ads, blind dates. People have found different ways of giving happiness a helping hand when searching for a partner. And through the internet and smartphone in particular, it's revolutionized how we seek in sexual and romantic context. Can I tell you something? Craigslist used to take care of a lot of these problems. And Craigslist used to have categories where, yeah, if you want to find work, you can go ahead and apply for work. And then if you want to go and find dates, you can also find dates. And by the way, Craigslist was a great place to find dates too. It did work for me. I didn't get caught with one of those Craigslist killers. At least I didn't have to worry about that. But I'll just tell you, you look at that, I'm saying to myself, man, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, when you look at this right here, Tinder, Hinge, all these other sites, guys, do you sound interested in staying on a dating app and subscribing to one? God forbid. Do you want to go ahead and subscribe to one of these dating apps now? If you know this kind of bullshit's going on, dating apps, you better keep denying this. You do understand that by doing this, you're basically going ahead and taking away the lifeblood. Okay, the revenue that is most important of what you need to keep these apps going. The men that are chasing and pursuing women, or maybe the other way around. Somebody more dominant looking for somebody more feminine. Still comes down to the fact that you need people like us that aren't playing this game right here. You need us to pay for the apps, pay for the subscriptions, pay for the extra perks and upgrades to get closer and closer to the women or men or whoever we want. So you're going to allow this kind of behavior to happen? There are plenty of other places to go looking for work. It's one thing if somebody wants to do this on their own, fine. But when this is being encouraged, okay, Wall Street Journal, Guardian, you're encouraging this shit. Fuck off. Okay? Fuck off. You're doing a disservice to women. And you're fucking over guys. Can't say it any clearer. A 2023 survey shows 77% of 16 to 29-year-olds and 66% of 30 to 49-year-olds have already dated online. And most couples nowadays do actually meet online. And also, what is this doing to your mental health? If you're desperate to go and look for work or networking or whatever else, and, the guys that are also being affected by all this bullshit that's being done to them by the people that are being disingenuous on these dating apps. Stanford University medical study came out and talked about that they did a study on the satisfaction levels of Tinder users based on testimonies of more than 1,300 respondents. And they showed results that online dating was an ineffective coping mechanism for those facing mental health challenges. And they made a point, the professor of psychiatric and behavioral sciences at Stanford University, Elias Abujaude, he makes the point and drew parallels with social media, which can exacerbate conditions like depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. And dating app providers already try to go ahead and try to create countermeasures to counteract negative consequences. And they try to go and talk about, how to handle yourself better on dating apps, but it's getting to the point where it's just not worth it. And I'm just showing you more of these red flags that come on. If you have somebody coming on and they're going to use you for ulterior motives, get off. Or drop them or block them or swipe away. It's not worth it at all. And by the way, you also know who's manipulating you as well? The dating apps themselves. A story from Gizmodo talks about somebody being shadow banned. That some dating app users are saying manipulative algorithms are suppressing the good matches. When tech companies run romance, the truth is hard to grasp. So they talk about this story. And one person talks about that. A guy talked about how he was peering over a drink at a bar at Manhattan's East Village. And a 31-year-old engineer who was asked to withhold his name, and his name Anthony, had been on the dating app Hinge for 5 years. Fuck me. 5 years on Hinge? That's chronically single. Stop. Get off of there, Anthony. Get off of that shit. Oh my goodness. He said he's always had a hard time meeting people on apps, but of course the pandemic came around. He saw a discouraging change that made his experience even worse. He says Hinge demoted me. All of a sudden the app stopped showing me attractive people. It was an issue he'd never seen on Tinder, Bumble, or any other platform. I have to work through 100 profiles to find someone halfway decent. Wow. And then he says that at first I didn't believe him. There are a lot of men who feel entitled to sex and love and the dream of meeting beautiful people, whether or not they're in your league. Why would Hinge hide them? But Anthony slid his phone across the table and he tapped through his Hinge account. His story held up. Typical dating app feed is a mix of people with varying levels of attractiveness. You get the occasional model, some obvious no's, and a lot of ordinary good-looking people. Anthony's feed wasn't like that. Profile through profile, nothing but unflattering pictures, awkward bios, and prompts with glaring red flags. And he never seen anything like that. And Anthony wondered if Hinge decided he was just as handsome enough. He told me his account to a dozen people over the course of a few months, and everyone agreed that Hinge sorted Anthony into a tier of less desirable users. He said basically, I was shadow banned. A lot of daters think Hinge and other dating apps are keeping them from seeing or matching the most appealing singles. And there were more men in this article they talked about. Hinge users, dating coaches, algorithm experts, and even the leader of a community of dating app hackers. And everyone agreed that Hinge and other dating apps judge users' appeal to adjust their individual algorithmic experiences. And some assume it's a benevolent efforts to find appropriate dates and eventual mates. Others believe it's a manipulation technique to encourage paid features that promise more matches. That's what it is, that last part. Whatever it takes to make you spend more money. That's what they're doing. No doubt about it. And we're seeing more and more of that all the time. A Hinge spokesperson talked to Gizmodo and said the app does not shadowban people, but not the way Anthony... It does shadowban people, but not the way Anthony describes it. They say they sometimes handle bad actors by preventing other users from searching for them, seeing them in the feed of potential matches, or receiving their messages. Rule breakers often make new accounts after an outright ban, so the subtle yet frustrating shadow ban might be a better way to curb misbehavior. No. Just keep banning them. Okay? Listen, I have been banned at plenty of sites. Right? I got a badge of honor that I've been banned from Match, OkCupid, Tinder. You see, what were the other ones? OkCupid, among others, right? And you know what? Fine. If you feel like I'm not any good and I have enough people that just, whatever, okay, out. Fine. No big deal. And maybe I was on the site for not anything that was more of a romantic thing or more than just a one-night stand or just something more depraved and debaucherous, exactly like I say it, right? Because that's what I was looking for. Now, they also mentioned that Hinge uses AI to identify people who are most compatible with you. Oh, so they're going to be the ones that think who's best for us. People into a special feed with their heart of the contact among a collection of other standout users described as the app's most desirable. And you're only allowed to interact with these high-grade prospects by sending them a rose. You only get 1 rose per week unless you pay $10 for 3 more. Or you can get discount packs of 12 or 50. And Hinge users talk about the best matches being trapped in rose jail, when they're sequestered to coerce you to paying. These ultra-appealing maybe matches can show up in the app's main feed eventually, but Hinge goes out of its way to suggest you never see those standouts again unless you shower them in $3.33 roses. Bullshit. Guys, I'm telling you right now, get the fuck off of dating apps. Quit buying them, quit using them. Might as well stay single if you're going to go through that. You're just getting screwed. But you know what? Guys, if you're attractive, you got the money or whatever, listen, if you're going to be the most desirable on there, we know you're not on there for, the right motives. Like, we understand you're not. Listen, I understand. You're going on there because, hey, you're going to do pretty well on those sites, right? And, hey, I'm not going to be worried about what I find on there because, there are plenty of women that are going to want to look for you and find you, right? And maybe you can get away with a lot more things that you really want. You can talk to as many girls as you want, as many hookups as you want, have a sex with any of those girls that you want, because they're all looking for you. And all those women are not going to mind if you're a little depraved and debaucherous.